Okay, hi. So, I want to talk about this. This is the Child Protective Service report. So, if you were to call someone in, and because you witnessed something that was abusive to a child, which is a lot of things, but if you were to call something in, these are what are filled out. Child Protective Service Order. They call them CPSs. They call them CPRs. There's different names that they refer to them by in the paperwork, but once you get to see it, you kind of realize that's what they're referring to, because there are sections in here. One is called Family Information. The second is called the Narrative. The third is called Agency Response. And there's a page for signatures, authorizations, and other actions, I think it's. But it's this one I want to talk about right here. This one is, the name of the worker who took the call was Christine Oakes. Okay? Her supervisor is Jennifer Kukoc. Okay? This originated, they're saying, at 7:24 on the 17th. And without looking at a calendar, I'm going to guess it's a Tuesday or a Monday. That would be the Tuesday or Monday that after Brad left for Atlanta. He had contacted me on the Sunday before, expressed to me a bunch of things that concerned me. And from there, I went to Richie Anderson's house, the sheriff, known him my whole life. Felt comfortable that I could talk to him about what Brad had spoke to me about. And from there, I was told a lot more from Richie. That, I believe Richie knew that I would have to report that, and I did. I called. It was either the next day or whatever, and I called. But I did reach out to Kareen. I did. I reached out to Kareen's mom too, with, hey, what are we going to do about this? Let's find a solution before it goes to this point, because I understand the gravity of this document. It is a report against a parent that they are a bad parent. Okay, and enough of these, they might not be able to prove them, but enough of these, they get talked about if you ever do have to go to court. So they go through. Okay, anyway, they talk about, here's the section B of the family information, which it says Adam Bishop, the first line. And it says non-mandated reporter next to me, meaning I reported it. And I'm non-mandated to do that. Easy, simple, sneezy. So, even though I'm the father, it doesn't say that. It says non-mandated reporter, but I'm in the family section, so maybe we're supposed to read between the lines on that one. But it goes on to me in I guess, not full of lies sort of stuff, but, maybe some stuff left out, maybe, some stuff included on their own opinion. But other than that, it goes on for me to say just what I said. I reported what Brad told me. I reported what Richie told me. And I reported that I had just talked to her mom up in Blair. And no one knew where she was. And that sparked my anxiety too. So, and I called Brad that day and said that I had reported Kareen, and that we had done that together. We had decided we were going to do that before he left for Atlanta. Then when he get back, we could handle this. But in the meantime, he wanted me to know. So this is me on July 24th, saying things that I knew. Okay. A week later, on the Sunday that Brad's coming back from Atlanta, I told this in the earlier video, but I show up about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and find Kareen in a shed with somebody that I would guarantee is known by the local police as being a bad character, a manufacturer of methamphetamines is what was going on. And my son was out in the driveway, naked, sunburnt, just pathetic. And I kept my cool. I washed him down. I heard some noises and laughing come from the granary, so I went and stuck my head in there. I picked my phone up and was going to dial 911. No cell service there in that yard. And so then I said, Kareen, come out here, whatever, what order it went, I'm not quite remember right. But she comes out. We talked for a few minutes, and I just said, you got to call somebody to get Tatum, or I'm calling right now. I'll call. And so I ended up having to hand Tatum back to her, which was hard. But I jumped in the car. I went to the top of the hill there out of West Indies and got cell service, and it bounced me into La Crosse County. La Crosse County, I'm not sure how it went, but got me down to Jackson County, and I got on a phone call with an officer, a female officer, that was going to be 40 minutes. And it had already been probably 10 minutes since I had left there, so I had come to the idea that they weren't leaving, and I think I told her that. And I went back to Ettrick. And I got a call in Ettrick, hey, Kareen's fine, she's on the couch. Tatum just had a bath, la la la. And I was like, okay, I'm not lying to you, that she was coming with, that I was stalking Kareen. And I said, is there an orange car in the driveway still? Because she was wondering who was here, and I'm trying to prove my innocence for some reason right off the bat. But the idea that there was a car in the driveway, and I said, hold on, officer, if that car's still there, that was the only car, then there's a man out in the shed right now that was just manufacturing methamphetamines, doing illegal things, dangerous things, and you need to be concerned about that right now. And she didn't. She wasn't. And that made me angry. I'm at Mom and Dad's house, and at Mom and Dad's place that we rented, Aaron and I did, out by the cemetery, and I did. I got upset with her. I maybe called her a couple names. I said, well, why won't you do your job? There's a guy out there right now. Go look. And she didn't say anything other than that. Our phone call ended, and 5 different squad cars show up in Ettrick. And Richie was one of them. And none of the Trumbull County cops were going to arrest me. No, we're not doing it. And I didn't know this at the time, but I read it now in the paperwork that they said, no, he didn't do anything. What we see him doing is not doing anything. It's you guys not doing anything. Jackson County sent one of their officers over to my dad's house, out of jurisdiction, and put the handcuffs on me right there in front of all those cops. And at that point, Richie said, Adam, you got to just go through this. You got to do it. And I wasn't afraid of jail. That's not, I'm not hard, but I wasn't. That wasn't it. I was afraid for my child, and I was realizing that something bigger than me and bigger than my ability to understand it was happening. So I sit a few days in jail, and during that time in jail is when it was within a few days of that, is that the judge signed an order because Kareen was drunk or something, and they couldn't find me. I put that on Facebook earlier. I could do that again. I don't want to dig it out now. But it was an order from the judge to seize Tatum. And instead of bringing him to me, they had Brad sign him. And they called it out-of-home placement with a non-relative, which can only be done in certain instances in emergencies. And, Mesa wasn't 18 yet, or, that would have been maybe a different situation, because Mesa was Tatum's second mom, for a lack of a better word, and I believe that. And I believe she cares about him a lot and took care of him. But at this point, they fill out one of these child protective service orders and word it as though Brad reported it. And it's dated the 8th of August, and I have that. And I'm going to show that. There's other things I'm talking about. But another protective service order was done at a few days down the road, and there was never another incident. There was nothing else that brought the emergency to it, because the Child Protective Services can only respond when a child is in danger or in need at that moment of being in danger, or, it's certain that future danger will happen, is the way the law reads. I guess it's at this point that I should have been made aware of a document that Brad filled out, and it's here, and it's called the probable cause statement, and it is a statement by Brad stating that he didn't know why I was coming, that just a bunch of bad lies about the day that I went to meet him there. And a probable cause statement was used to get me for trespassing, which I was not trespassing. Okay, the fact that Crean was there was unknown to me at all, that she was going to be there, and she didn't live there. There's another statement here and here that Brad had thrown her out in March, and she had stayed there for a month or something and got sick of her, and there's police reports done that he had called the police to get her out. And that plays back to how can they call, when it got to court, this is how it laid out. That Brad lived with Tatum as a stepfather and took care of Tatum ahead of time, so therefore a law can be placed in there that he can be placed in a non-relative role. And that is not true. Okay? Corrine did whatever she wanted to do with Tatum whenever she wanted to, up to the point of this date. This is when the child was seized. Brad did not care whether or not Tatum was gone where he was at. Brad cared that Corrine was interrupting his life at his house, not where she was. That wasn't what the police calls were. And this can also be seen in a there's a call that I made on September 2nd, which would have been about 2 weeks after Tatum was seized from Corrine. Now we're going to say what Brad said. Let's say it's because what Brad said. What Brad said was high drug use, methamphetamine use. This is pictures that Brad took of his house. And you could see right there, that's a meth pipe. I mean, he built the evidence up to way ahead of time. And he made videotapes of Corrine sleeping, but he never did anything with them. It was I instigated it, and I went to jail for it. And then he came in the backside of it. And that is using the court to kidnap a child, period. He lied in different police reports all through these documents that were held from me under confidentiality laws, HIPAA laws. HIPAA laws only allow a parent with custodial rights to view them. Well, they never allowed custodial rights, because if they would have, they would have presumed that I would get all this information and I would be able to make a better informed decision about what's going on with my son. And having to know what I know now, they're banking that I can't do anything about it. And this is where I'm stuck with this. Or better said, is Tatum is stuck with this. And he's not. Okay? More over the 2 years, there were multiple times that I reported Brad for leaving bruises on Tatum. There was other things that I didn't report that were concerning to me that I had picked up on. As a first-time dad, I was kind of maybe thick-headed about some things, but something started to stick out like a sore thumb, that something wasn't right about what was going on. And bruises on the neck, handprint on the chest, black eye from getting slapped with a towel. And Brad admits to these things. And then comes the guardianships gets granted, and then I appealed it. Side note, but that came back to me about 3 weeks later, and it was a return to sender. Doesn't know the address, whatever that game is. Didn't know the address, or I didn't have the right address on it. It's ended today with I've had contact twice with my son in 2.5 months, and both times my son asked me, "Please, Dad, help me," and that is being stopped, not only from me being able to help him, but from me being able to call someone to help him, because they have stopped. They said they're not doing any more welfare checks. Now, it's just, I think it's one dispatcher, because I talked to another one, and they're like, okay, we'll get someone over there, and we'll figure out if your son's all right. 2 minutes later, this guy gets back on the phone. We're not doing that anymore. And it was 2 or 3 times that I called into dispatch in Tatum's whole life in La Crosse County. Maybe once or twice into Jackson County. When things actually happen, every time I called, there was events happening that were putting my kid in danger. And now I'm being told we're not doing that anymore, and that it's based on some theory that I'm harassing him. And that's not happening. I mean, Lord knows I'm being as patient as I can be with this man. But 2 months, and somebody needs to meet with Tatum. Somebody, a professional. I mean, this idea that they say, oh, you know, we don't want to do that. That's obtrusive to a child, and we don't talk to them all. We decide ourselves to screen things out, which that's what CPS did here, and but they never met with Tatum. And my thought to that is, you guys have just bombarded into his life for the last 3 years. You got him with a guardian who's an extension of CPS or the state of Wisconsin by law, bound by what he has to do and follow the law. This was not an open guardianship. It was never agreed that Brad Byam was going to take my child and run off and not let me see him. That was not the agreement I had with Brad, nor did I make that agreement with anybody, because I'm the non-offending parent of a CHIPS action. That means that there's never been a child service report done against me, ever. There's never been one. And there has to be one of these done in order for your child to be taken. That is how that statute reads. That this document here is the evidence or primary reporting evidence to the court. And I'm not on it. It says it right here, offender. My name's just not in it. So for them to come back 2 or 3 or 4, 6 months later, a year later, and start adding things into this report as though I didn't do this or I didn't do that, that's not true either. I mean, the fact is, the truth is, I volunteered in my head, I volunteered to go through the parenting course, because they said I wouldn't be able to see him until I had that worked out. If I were to do the whole, well, I'm not bound by any laws. Let me see my son. So in order for me to even get paternity established, which happened about 3 weeks after this first child's protective service report was done in July, so we're talking about September sometime, that's when I got my rights for Tatum. And in the next breath, in the same courtroom, they assigned the guardianship and took those rights away. I went through 18 months of parenting classes through an independent parent coordination counselor and recommendation service called Stein Counseling. Maybe some of you have heard of them. They're very professional, very good, and really treated my son right in a situation where he was meeting 3 or 4 different people over this kind of strangers riding in cars and things like that, and he was comfortable with them, and he developed good relationships with them. And they came to the conclusion based on not only did Stein, but the state Wisconsin, the hospital out of Eau Claire, after Crean got out of Stein, she went there. Brad dropped out after the first or second time. Didn't complete it. Crean didn't complete it. And their recommendation was they would not recommend either one of Brad or Crean for guardianship or reunification. And they recommended me. And that is not something where I did anything different than I do with Tatum anyways. It was what you guys do, what parents do with kids. They think and they care. And what they recognized going on that side was not bad parenting. It was abusive parenting. It was Crean talking inappropriately, doing things inappropriately. It was Brad coming home and didn't realize that the state worker's car was the same color and shape as his daughter's car and yelled at Tatum in a way that the reporter reported it that day. It was another child service report was done on Brad by a Stein counselor that witnessed Brad yelling or kicking something and scaring Tatum. And this was just, this was before the guardianship was granted. None of this was told to me. None of it. I would have not been in the situation I'm in. So now I misjudged maybe my gullibility, and I definitely misjudged Brad's intentions, because Tatum is now placed back with his mom a lot of the time and back with Brad. Mace's gone to school, and that I need some help. Okay, there's $20,000 for a lawyer to touch this, and most of them call back and say no. They say yes normally, and they say no. I'm stressed. They say no after a little bit. And I don't get all that into all that conspiracy stuff, but why am I not allowed afforded the rights like other people are? There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a paper trail for a child being taken from one family and put with another one, or we're gonna have chaos. And there's a lot of people out there right now that are saying the same thing I am. They're saying my child was kidnapped through legal process, meaning they were tricked, duped. Everything from being told to file a restraining order, even though the restraining order won't go through, the restraining order is allowed into family court. And that was done on my birthday, just a week after I got off that bike ride. That was I love my son, and I really like the encouragement that you guys give me to say, like, keep going and don't give up on him, and that's not going to happen. I mean, that's not going to happen. But there are other things that should concern you, and that is, where do we go? Why are there neighbors and people that are so angry at the government? You take someone's kid without just cause. I'm not going to be happy with the government ever again, and that's okay with them. But is it okay with you? I mean, is it? It's something that they at least have to follow some general rules, or children get hurt, and that's what's happening to my son. I really thank you guys for watching again. I see you, Jeff, Mindy, Katie. I go down through it. I see him pop up, and we don't talk. We don't know each other very well, but thank you for watching. Have a good night.